God, God is, He is my all and all. God is my joy in the times of sorrow. God is my all and all. God is my today and tomorrow. God, my God is my all and all. God is, God is, God God God
Good morning, good morning, good morning, Spirit Rising family. If you are in a position where you can, please come on to screen so I can see your beautiful, beautiful, beautiful faces and be more fully, brilliantly, and completely in community with you. I am bringing you back to the soundtrack of my childhood. Let me tell you, let me tell you, let me tell you, with the Right Reverend James Cleveland. The Right Reverend James Cleveland. And my mama was the minister of music, and our church choir would be singing God is, and they would practice. They'd sing it at church, and it moved me every time. And then they would gather together for practice at our house, and I'm at my mother's house today as we are celebrating her 75th birthday this weekend here in Washington, D.C., and have had a wonderful gathering with family this weekend. And around the piano in her house, she'd be playing, and the whole choir would be singing. And me, little Rebecca, I'd be in the back of all of that and singing my heart out too, off tune. Let me tell you, off key, off everything. But God is right. I was in it.
Yes,
I
he
was
is.
in it. I was in it. So it is appropriate that I get to revisit. I get to be home in her space, revisit those memories, and riff off of James Cleveland's God is as we consider who and what we are on this day. Welcome, welcome, welcome to Spirit Rising. this third Sunday of the month. I know you're used to seeing me on the first Sunday, but I had to work the first Sunday. So I switched places and get to be with you today. Spirit rising, spirit rising, spirit rising. We are so happy to have you. None of you whom I'm seeing are new to this space, but it is useful for us to always ground and root in our shared purpose as a community of soul. We are what we call a community or salon for the soul, a sacred space and community where our spiritual growth and liberation meet. We offer provocations that stimulate our spiritual curiosity, invite our most authentic self-expression, and activate the wisdom of our souls. We affirm the power of the collective to serve as a mighty channel for revelation and the flow through of spirit in our community. We trust love as the greatest universal power, y'all. We honor the divine as spoken by any name and no name. We focus on collective liberation through spirit while emphasizing personal experiences and individual transformations. We lovingly explore the intersections of spiritual development and transformative justice. And we believe that spiritual intimacy and oneness with the divine is an accessible relationship for all. We are rooted by the profound welcome and persistent unqualified yes and unconditional belonging that is our collective birthright. And we dare to stand in the spaces of hurt and hope so that we may fully witness the possibilities of creation. We're also a pretty courageous lot who are willing to explore and open to the truth wherever we find it. And we embrace the wildness and wholeness of our spirits. The wildness and wholeness of our spirits. These are just a few of the descriptors and anchors that bring us into community with one another, but it is worth rooting in them when we gather so that we have some shared sense of our collective identity and work. Welcome, 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 welcome. Jezere, Reverend Regina, Sweet Tea, Wolf, Jaquee, Mama Love, Miss Cynthia, Sally A, Mish, and Tamira. I am so happy to be with you on this day. Come off mute, everybody, and greet each other. Give a warm welcome to everybody else.
Good
Good
morning.
morning,
Hello,
everyone.
Good
Blessed
morning.
day.
Yes, 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 yes. Now we have just a little bit of sense as we're in the same place, even though there are boxes and such on this screen. I want to open the floor before we lean into our topic today. I want to open the floor for you all to share a little bit about how you're arriving today at the well of wisdom. How are you arriving today at this well of wisdom? The floor is open so that I may hear from you.
I'll jump in and say unexpectedly, I had been away from Spirit Rising for a while, and Wolf messaged me and was like, "You should hop on today." And I received any universal like notice like that to mean that I should do exactly what I'm being told. And so I am showing up open and ready to receive what I've been sent here to receive as well as give on today. So that is how I am showing up.
Oh, Jaquee. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm so glad that you are open to the movement of spirit and the instructions of spirit as they come through. Such a beautiful partner
And
you have in Wolf.
and I just want to say that jumping on and God is being your opening song like really did it for me. It always reminds me of my grandmother, and my dad is a pastor. And whenever he has a pastoral anniversary, in remembrance of his mother, he asks my sister and I to sing that song. And so, just showing up and that being the song that's playing when I get here, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm really ready to receive, especially on like an ancestral level, because I've been thinking a lot about her lately. So that's
Look at that.
I know, right?
Grandma's spirit is in the house.
Right?
Right? Right? Like that was grandma's wave. Grandma would say, "Hey, baby.
Yeah.
Hey, I see you. Come on in." Grandma opened that door for you today. Grandma was talking to Wolf to open the door for you
I
by
know.
way of James Cleveland, right? Like
Yeah.
it's beautiful when those synchronicities line up and we find ourselves, we know that we know that we know that we're in the right place, that we're in the right place at the right time. May the gifts that you are desiring, that you are open to, make themselves fully, brilliantly, and completely available to you. May you experience the gifts that you have come to get, because most assuredly you are deserving. And the host of angels and of others, including Grandma, right, are wanting your attention on this day and wanting to give you something very special. Ashe and amen. Sally, hey!
Good morning, all. Hey, Wolf and Jaquee, how y'all doing? Go
Good.
back,
How are you?
go back a little bit. um, I am asking for prayers this morning. I experienced about a vertigo that was so horrific that I went to the hospital and yeah, and still every once in a while get hit with just the dizziness, but not as bad as the world spinning and spinning and spinning and spinning. So I'm just asking for prayers for complete total healing to get back to where I need to be so I can do what I'm supposed to do in the world I have been guided to be. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
Dear Sally, we are praying with you and for you for your complete and total healing. Complete and total healing. Complete and total healing. We recognize your wholeness as an incontrovertible state of spirit. So all that you need, all that you need, all that you need is available with you and in you and through you and for you. May the medical team who have been entrusted with your care help provide the information and the resources and the medicines that help you on this path to wholeness. May your own intuitive knowing, your body's great wisdom, be fully activated in you, as it is the greatest healer that you have known in your life, and it is always working on behalf of your precious life. So may its insights and intelligence guide your healing process. May your family provide the kind of support and loving care that helps you be well in the midst of transition, right? In the midst of transition. We give thanks for all of the intercessions and all of the support and all of the resources that are aligning and conspiring for your wellness. And may whatever lessons that are embedded in this experience present themselves to you in ways that you can internalize and act upon. May you use this experience in service of your soul's unfolding. Amen and Ashe.
Amen.
Yes. How else are others arriving today?
I feel like I'm arriving in slow motion. Oh, yesterday I went through a meditation and something is happening. I don't know what, but it feels like slow motion right now.
All right, Miss Cynthia. Well, we give thanks for slow,
Yeah.
right? For slow motion, for the meditation that is working in you, right? That is giving you a chance to slow down a bit,
Yeah.
right? It's my experience, and I don't know if this is the case for you, but it is my experience that when I slow down, and Sally, when I am slowed down.
Mhm. Mhm.
That I become present to, and with the more of life that is, that can at times escape my attention and engagement
Yeah.
because of all of the things that normally monopolize my attention. But something happens when I slow down. My field of awareness can expand, and my availability to the movement of spirit
Mhm.
shifts. My availability, not its availability. I don't believe that it is ever withholding,
Mhm.
but I have a different kind of receptivity when I slow down and am slowed down. Sometimes because I need it, because I'm like, oh Lord, please, 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 right? And other times because there's more spaciousness and
Yeah.
I'm able to experience the thickness of life and the thickness of spirit and the thickness of myself in profoundly different ways.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else want to share how you're arriving today? Welcome, Tess, by the way. Welcome, welcome. Yes, Reverend Regina, I see your hand. How you arriving?
I'm like Jacquees on that song. That was one of my favorites. So I'm arriving well and grateful. Just wanted to say that though, because that was my song. I was like, oh, this is good. Okay. So
Ma'am.
I'm well.
So glad. So glad I could take us back, right? I could take us back because that was my song too. That was, woo, right? Those are the sounds of the 70s. The late 70s. James Cleveland came out with God is. It was foundational, I think, to my spiritual development and formation. There's uh, a lot of wisdom, a lot of medicine in that song. Yes. Welcome, Eileen. Welcome, Bertini. We are sharing at how we are arriving at this well of wisdom today, and the floor is open. I see Tess has put in the chat, arriving in the right place at the right time. Already know. Hey, slowing down, slow motion, motion of the inner knowing, body's intuitive healing power, claiming my seat for those dropping into and with spirit, opening to receive. Thank you, thank you, thank you, Tess, for sharing. I'll keep the floor open for just a little bit longer if there's anybody else who wants to share how you're arriving before we lean in.
I am arriving grateful to be part of the community. And I also am arriving with some gratitude for myself for getting something accomplished this morning that took me a long time. So just acknowledging that um, I was able to get that done.
So good, sweet tea. So good. So good that you're a part of this community. And everybody, let's do this thing with and for sweet tea. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to take your right hand. Take your right hand. Got your right hand? Get your right hand up. And I want you to take your right hand. I want you to pat yourself on the back. Go ahead. Pat yourself on the back. That's right. That's right. We did this thing here. We did this thing. Sweet tea did this thing. Every once in a while, indeed, with greater frequency, we need to pat ourselves on the back, right? We need to acknowledge when we have accomplished what we set out to do, or anything where we get a chance to celebrate ourselves to acknowledge and appreciate ourselves. This is a culture that often does not reinforce those kinds of behaviors, often makes us quite dependent upon the judgments and the validation of others. And so, in a culture that has us eternally seeking external validation, what a radical and revolutionary act, what a liberatory position it is to appreciate and affirm ourselves. May you continue to do so all the days, sweet tea, all the days. And may we learn from that and practice that as a habit of care for self. Are there others who want to share how they're arriving?
Good morning, Spirit Rising family. I am just grateful to be here. I am identifying with Sally and with Cynthia slowing down and dealing with health issues right now. I too am struggling after hip replacement with a lot of chronic illnesses that need to be managed, and slowing down and paying more attention to my health practices, more attention to my consciousness and spiritual awareness, and leaning more into surrender and trust, knowing that, as the song James Cleveland so aptly said, God is my all in all. And he is the great physician. And this body does know how to heal itself. Slowing down, taking the necessary time, prayer, being in community with kindred spirits, and knowing that this too shall come to pass. I'm just grateful to be here this morning.
Thank you, Mama Love. Thank you, thank you, thank you. On this day, you and Cynthia have me rethinking what medicine is, right? Widening my definition of medicine to include slowing down, to include surrender, to include trust, right? As medicines, right? And when you said, my body does indeed know how to heal, what a powerful proclamation and truth, right? That is an affirmation that each and every one of us need to repeat every single day. My body does know how to heal. My body does know how to heal. My body really and truly knows how to heal. My body knows how to heal. Oh, yes, my body knows how to heal. My body knows how to heal. My body heals. My body heals. My body heals. My body knows how to heal. My body.
Oh, yes, yes,
Right?
yes.
Like, how about that as an affirmation? Because my body does indeed know how to heal. What happens is that I interrupt my body's healing often by not honoring its knowing, right? By not honoring its knowing. My body's like, we sleepy, and I'm like, but I just got to. This is one more thing, right? My body's like, we don't want to eat that, but I'm like, oh, but it tastes so good. You know what I'm saying? My body is like, oh, we need to stretch. And I'm like, but if I could just like let me sit here for another minute. I stretch it. I stretch and when the show is off. Right? Like my body knows how to heal and my body heals. It is the greatest healer that I will know and experience in this lifetime. Learning to trust it, to surrender to her processes and her deep knowing is the practice that I am being invited into. And that will in places and spaces of tension and dis-ease and discomfort and wounding require that I slow down, that I open to, that I accept, that I trust, and that I relinquish reliance on my mind as the only authorizing and capable entity or form of consciousness that I have. Tamira, we are grateful that you are arriving, grateful for this container that we are creating together on this day. Y'all, we done already dropped in, didn't we? I'm like, we in the flow right here. We in the flow. All right, this is my final invitation at the moment. If there's anyone else who would like to share anything else before we settle into the provocation for the day, and tell us how you're arriving.
Good morning, fam.
Good morning, Eileen.
Morning.
It's lovely to hear all your voices. And I'm super grateful to be here. In terms of the sacred container, I am finding myself in awe and aspiration. I've been waking up at dawn lately. And I spoke to my mother, who is an early riser. And she was telling me about this old oak tree that fell or got uprooted during Hurricane Milton because she lives in Central Florida. So to her, to the west was the hurricane, and to the east were tornadoes. And she was saying that it was really sad because when they dug up for the pond, she thinks they didn't put enough soil around the roots. And this giant old tree, with the wind and the rain, the earth couldn't hold her up. And my mom was saying they're probably going to cut her up. And while it is sad, she will be reborn as fuel, probably. And this element of wood is really special to me. I was taught to believe that wood can bend as well as maintain its shape. And this has been an essential guiding principle for how to withstand the elements. And I'm just really appreciative for the tree people and all the lessons that they provide us. And I want to share some good news that I received during the week of my moving. That the jury selected my curatorial proposal. And so on February 7th, you're all invited to the Kranzberg Gallery in Grand Center for The Sun Is Still There, Even Behind the Clouds. And it will open on February 7th, 5 to 7, and there will be a performer. by the name of Joss Barton. And it will feature four women of color artists, Sukanya Mani, Kiki Salem, Coco Liao, and Danny McCoy. And then there will be a panel during Women's Her Story Month in March, which I'm still deciding if it's going to be either at the Drip to make that north-south connection or at the High-Low. And then if I find additional funding, I'll do a public art therapy workshop so that we can get the public's reflections as to like how the show has impacted them. And then it will close April 5th of 2025.
Eileen, yay! Y'all come on off mute and show Eileen some love. This is you.
Eileen, great to hear
All
you.
right.
Congratulations, friend.
Yes,
That's
yes.
really good.
Congratulations.
Very
Good,
good.
good. This is fantastic. Fantastic. Look, Eileen, we are a part of your community. So I heard one of the things I heard you say is if I get the funding for a public showing, if you let us know what funding is required, let us be a part of helping to resource that.
Well, I don't want to charge anybody, so ideally the funding would come through a foundation. And I have plenty of art supplies, so it would just be a matter of could I volunteer the time? And maybe if it really came down to it, I guess I could do a sliding scale fee, but I wrote this proposal back in 2020. So the fact that the artists still want to be involved after almost more than 4 years is astounding to me. And initially, they notified me in August by email, and I had submitted it to the call for proposals back in 2023. And the last time I heard from the Kranzberg was in September of 2023, and they said they had an error in their system and that it had been lost because I was following up with, I haven't heard anything. And the staff person at the time like resubmitted it like manually for me, and then I heard nothing. And what's funny is if I had gotten that email in August during my housing situation, I probably would have been too stressed out to accept the award. So the fact that like I saw the second email to follow up on the award is really interesting. And we all know that the universe works in sometimes not so mysterious ways. And the news will come to you when you're ready to receive it.
Mhm. Indeed. Indeed,
Eileen,
indeed.
Eileen, I can't help it. I was trying to be quiet, but I can't help it. You spoke about the tree in Florida and how the earth couldn't hold it, and how something about the cutting up and the surrender. But that's very I connect that with this play or whatever it is that you want to do in February. It's the same thing. As you said, when we're ready, our answers will come. So maybe at that time, you may not have been able to hold it in August, but you can hold it right now.
Thank you for that wisdom. Thank you for that wisdom, Cynthia. We appreciate it. Eileen, just a little something for you to chew on. Little something. Little something. Well, dear ones, here we are today at this particular well And I want to talk some. I won't talk long, at least I think, but y'all know sometimes what happens. So I don't make no promises. I'm not making any promises. But I want us to talk about the God within. Oh, Brittini is jumping in. Let's see here in the chat. Miss y'all, been a good but busy month. Glad to share space with everybody this morning. Yes, Brittini, we're happy to be with you, and you're changing images on the screen. I'm telling you, I'm loving the dynamism of the of the images that you have, and I particularly like the one that you have right now. Oh, look at that. Look at that. You made it colorful. Wherever that is where I want to be. That's all I'm saying. But I want to talk about the power within, the God within. I want to spend some time having us consider how we think about God. Are y'all willing to go on this journey with me?
Yes.
Yes. Oh,
Yes,
good.
for sure.
Yes, yes.
Absolutely.
Take us.
Yeah, no, I appreciate the encouragement. You know, I come from a call and response tradition, so I have to ask for what I want. I'm like, hey, tell me something. But earlier this week, I was reading my daily word, which is something I do every day. My mother gifted me with a subscription to the Daily Word, and it has been a practice in our family for quite some time. I grew up watching my grandmother read the Daily Word. Every time she got up and she went to the bathroom and sat on the radiator in her bathroom, and as she was getting herself together for the day, she would read a passage or two out of the Daily Word as a part of her preparation for whatever came through that day. And so my mother, in her infinite wisdom, maybe a year ago or two, gifted me with a Daily Word subscription so that I could tap into something daily if I chose to. And this particular week, which was this week, I was struck by a simple passage in the day's text that said, and I quote, God is not a power outside of you to whom you must appeal, but a power inside of you that can be used to direct your life. Now I'm going to say that again because I can. And in this community, that might not seem like such a radical proposition, right? Many of us have perhaps found our way to this particular state of consciousness or understanding, but it is worth repeating because it runs counter to our dominant cultural operating systems. And so it is worth repeating again. God is not a power outside of you to whom you must appeal, but a power inside of you that can be used to direct your life. I was done after I read that. Like whatever else the Daily Word had to say, I got the seed that I needed. Does that resonate with anybody else? Yeah, if so, yes.
Yes.
Yes. So I want to riff on that this morning because it reminds me of something that a sister friend told me some years ago that her pastor said to her, right? Her pastor said, God does not want to be worshiped. God wants to be expressed. God wants to be expressed. There is, of course, a place for worship. I'm not denigrating. Worship and praise and ecstatic praise and all of the things where we are declaring, right? Declaring our appreciation, our recognition, our celebration, our affirmation of the presence of all that is, right? But this is an agitation here. There's a spiritual agitation endemic in this. That God doesn't want to be worshiped. God wants to be expressed. God's not a power outside of you that you must appeal to. God is a power inside of you that you must use. Right? There's an agitation. And I want to stick with that agitation because we are a liberatory community. Both of these framings of God are compelling to me though they contradict the interpretations of God that I was given as a young one, y'all. Now, I don't know what your spiritual formation was like. I don't know what the pastors in your church, if you went to church, or the if you were in Sacred Circle, if you were Quaker, or if you were Buddhist, or Muslim, or if you were connected to animist or ancestral traditions or other kinds of things. But I will tell you that in the dominant Christian context in which I was raised, in the Sunday school and Bible study that I was taught, here are some of the fundamentals that I learned about God. God is a remote masculine being who reigns from above. Anybody else learn that? Right? God is a remote masculine being who reigns from above. Or God is intimately connected to me, but a father who I am not worthy of. Anybody else get that message? Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Right?
Yes, yes.
How about that? Right? Like, God is my father, but I'm not worthy. Get that? Like, if I said that to my kids, I'm your mama, but you ain't worthy. Y'all, that's the making of a for real serious complex right there. We got a few complexes, by the way. We call them oppressions and isms. And I'm going there. Right? So God is intimately connected to me because God is parent, God is father, right? God is connected, but God, I'm not worthy of this, God. I'm not worthy of the love of my parents, right? God loves me unconditionally, yet judges and will punish me harshly for transgressions, both considered and enacted. Anybody ever get that one? Right? I didn't even have to do it, just considering it. Y'all understand what I'm saying?
Say it.
Right? Hold on for one moment. Okay. All right. Hold on for one moment. We got some technical difficulties on this end. Grandma can't get in. Hey, Desiree, is my mama trying to get in? One of the grandbabies came downstairs. Hey, grandma can't get in. Right when I was on the road.
We got to get
We
grandma
heard
in.
she was like, I got to get in on this.
We got to get
She
in.
was listening from upstairs. She was like, wait a minute now. Okay, y'all. We gonna have to need you to hold on for one moment because we got to get grandma here. So hold on for me. Hold on for me 1 minute. I promise I'll be right back. There she go.
Hey, Grandma.
Look at that. Won't God do it? Grandma is in.
Glad to see you, Maybelle. Happy birthday.
Thank you. I was having a little trouble. Did you change the password and ID number?
I don't think so, Mama, but I'm glad that something worked the trouble out.
Right.
Yes. So we were talking about some of the lessons and what we learned, or at least what I learned about God, and it seems like it is resonant to some of you. But where I stopped was that God loves me unconditionally, yet judges and will punish me harshly for transgressions, both considered and enacted. And God's will is to be followed with fidelity. I learned that too. But, and here's the but, it cannot truly be comprehended by my human heart and mind. Right? So I'm to follow God's will with fidelity, but I can't really know and understand the ways of God. These were all things that I learned when I was young from my Sunday school and my Bible study classes, and there were more things, but these are characteristics that of God that always presented conundrums to me. You all, why? Right, little Rebeccah was trying to understand these things. Adolescent Rebeccah was pivoting away from some of these operating assumptions. Grown up Rebeccah had radically moved to positions that were considered more heretical. But I'll tell you, the conundrums and the questions that I had was, why would we anthropomorphize something that created all life and being and is vaster than the universe? I mean, if God was a man, surely it would also be an ant, a grain of sand, a supernova, a cow, a fictional character. And if it took on any of these other forms, why would it be bound by and prone to enforce human customs and social norms? Why would that be its frame of reference? I mean, does a supernova follow the laws of man? I was curious. I had big questions. If God was a father, surely God would also be a mother, who all children know is the giver of life. And how is it, by the way, that children of God never grow up to be God? Help me understand this one. You know what I'm saying? I was perplexed by this one. Don't baby lambs become adult lambs if they follow the natural course of development? I mean, right? Baby chickens become adult chickens. Baby humans become adult humans. Baby dogs will become adult dogs. Like, will not my natural course of development lead to godhood? Lead to an evolving understanding and experience of myself from a separate, discrete, and powerless creation to a unitive, causal consciousness that is infinitely generative, whole, and indivisible? I'm just, asking some questions this Sunday. If my belief in something called God, and by extension, in something called Rebeccah, is my belief in God, is my belief in something called Rebeccah meant to be liberatory or oppressive? Help me out. I mean, I'm trying to figure this one out. As a Black woman who descended from people enslaved in these United States, how does what I've been taught about God benefit the maintenance of the myth of white supremacy in my life and in the larger world? I told you I was coming down this street today. Right? How does what I've been taught about God benefit the maintenance of the myth of white supremacy in my life and in the world? Right? Lest we think the only thing that got colonized was our politics. Come on now. And if I can't trust that interpretations of holy texts are free of social, political, and economic agendas that conspire to control me and extract my resources, then where should I look for truth about God and the truth about myself? Where should I look? If the interpretations are skewed and not in my favor. Where should I look?
Look inside yourself.
What? Tess, you got the memo. I love it. This is what I love about my Spirit Rising family. Yes. Tess says, look inside yourself. What? You mean I don't have to quote scripture, chapter, and verse to find the answer? Now, and I'm not anti-scripture. Y'all, please don't hear me. Don't be out here saying Rebeccah ain't say don't read my scriptures. Y'all already heard I read the daily word. Okay. But those are supplemental resources. And they are not without agendas. For real. Right? But there are other places where we can go and find and gather insight, usable wisdom, and truth. And principle among them, chief among them, is within. Yes, Hess. I must go within. I must go within. But know this, and I really want you to hear me on this. Within has no bottom, no boundary, and no border. Within has no bottom, boundary, or border. It is, in fact, a portal to all that is, which originates from my dynamic awareness of life and my evolving understanding of myself. Are y'all picking up what I'm putting down? When we say within, what do I mean when I say within? Am I talking about a prepackaged hole somewhere inside that just an itty bitty space? No, 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 no. What is within? What is within? Especially if it has no bottom, if there's no floor to it, if it has no boundary, there's no edge to it, if it has no border, there's no outside of it. Within is a portal. It's a doorway. Within is a radical proposition that centers me in relation to God. That's what within is. It centers me in relation to God, in relation to the universe, in relation to the whole. I am centered. That's what it means to go within. It's to stop being outside, out there, away from, separate from, disconnected. Within centers me in relation to God, in relation to the universe, in relation to the whole. I am not consigned to the hinterlands of God's interest, grace, and creation, but essential to the scheme of things, to life's unfolding and emergence. I am that I am. I am that I am. Within affirms that among the places that I should look for God's presence and power is me. Is me. I should look for God in and as me. Right here and now. Now, if I said that in some places and spaces today, and some places and spaces 100 years ago, 400 years ago, 600 years ago, it would have me strung up. But I said it and I'm not taking it back. Right? Within is challenging me to develop a liberatory consciousness that does not confuse the exaltation of God with the obliteration of my cosmic, social, and political significance. Those things have been mutually intertwined for the purpose of my control, and I am disentangling them. Within transforms God from authority to ability. I'm going to say that one more time. Within transforms God from authority to ability. Take a revolutionary breath and hold this truth. That God is an ability in you. What is God? What is God? What is God? God is an ability in you. I'm going to pause here and open the floor for whatever is stirring in you right now. Whatever it is, we welcome it for our collective consideration and engagement.
Wow. As I hear this, as I listen to this, as we started, and you spoke of our understanding, most of us, as children, of who we were told God is. That narrative, that picture of the white man, the powerful white man in the sky with all the ability. I'm making that, that's what I'm calling it. It wasn't called then, but that's what I'm calling it. And it's so amazing that all the narrative, particularly for Black and Indigenous people, that's what we were told. Nothing about the colonization. And why would they not say that? For total control. I recall when I first started hearing whispers of the Black Jesus. The female side of God. And when all of this came to me, because I was raised up in raised Catholic, but it's kind of strange. My father was steamed in the Catholic, that's where he was raised. My mother in the sanctified. So we have sanctified and free and together. So I was open, and in college, I just, after college and everything, I went on, I started my way, listening to what I believe in, my truth, and questioning, because we were told to never question. You don't question. But I question, and I read, and I listen, and I seek, and I search, and I trust. And there were so many experiences that challenged me to be open, to rethink. And I recall when a sister clearly told me about this, this God in the sky and the Black Jesus and what we don't know and how we've been lied to, misinformed by the narratives. And I gotta say that it impacted me so deeply that one of the expressions she said, "Oh, I know how you feel about it. You don't take my Jesus away from me." And at that point, that's exactly where I was. Because my Jesus saved me. And I can tell you what, I had to work through that. And I still believe in God, Jesus, but I don't believe in all this other stuff that's going on with it. And I do know that there is a female side of God because I have experienced her time and time and time. As I look back into my life, I see so many experiences of her. The many breasted one, the Black Madonna, my Shekinah glory. So it is what it is. And I believe that it is time for us to start changing the narrative, speaking our truth. And we don't always know the truth, and I don't think anybody knows all the truth, but this must start to come out for the masses, especially for we as Black people, Black women, Black females. I'm not excluding males, we need both. But I'm just so on this topic, it's just in me. And again, I told you I was sitting here. I don't really know where to go with this. I'm kind of meditating. I'm kind of slow. Yeah, I'm gonna stay slow until he moves me where I need to go. And this is a step. And I thank you. I thank you for being a forerunner. Because when I was introduced to you, I was like, wow, there are real people right here, real now, that believe some of the same things that I believe. And I was introduced to you through Aaron and Kathleen. And so we knew about the female and all that. So anyway, I just want to thank God. I don't want to take up all the time, but thank God, thank God, thank God, thank God in all of his essence, which is in all of us. And we are all an essence of God. Thank you.
Thank you, Cynthia, for sharing about your journey to a wider conception and understanding and experience of God. Are there others who want to share? I mean, in listening to you, I was like, oh, we were really taught that God was an overseer. Honestly, God is overseer. Uh-huh. And what do we do with that one? Right? Mish, come on in this conversation.
Yeah, thank you. I wanted to talk about that part a little bit because I mean this is part of the journey that I've been on and feeling disconnected and from self, disconnected from spirit, from ancestors, and just seeking, and telling myself, you have to go within, you have to go within, you have to understand that you are source, that you are essence, all of the things. But that there's something that I struggle with around it, right? And all of the complexes. Like I didn't think that I had swallowed all of the complexes from growing up in the church. But that piece around unworthiness has been so big on me lately, doing the inner work and really understanding how I'm showing up and how I have internalized all of these things, even beyond the church. And so understanding myself as God that is a lot of work. But one thing that really struck me, I don't even remember who I was hearing this from. But some white mother, she was talking about how she wasn't a church going person, but she had taken her kid and her family to church, and the kid had one week of Sunday school. And they went to a family gathering afterwards, and this child saw one of their ancestors up on the wall, grandpa, great great grandpa, or somebody. And this little white boy says, "Is that God? Like, is that God?" He didn't know who it was. And I remember that blew my mind because there's no world in which I would ever look up on the wall of my ancestors and question, is that God? Is that Jesus? Is that the person that they were just talking about in Sunday school? So that's a lot in and of itself, right? Because we don't conceive of ourselves in that way. But understanding God is overseer, and that baby recognizing old grandpa as God, that connection, I was like, oh, so y'all do think you're God. That y'all do think that. That's what has you moving around on the earth like this, but you got it wrong. Anyway, yeah, things just coming together. So yeah, I'm appreciative as well. But yeah, the work of me understanding myself is God and seeing my people on the wall is God. Whew, I'm working on it. I'm working on it.
Mish, thank you so much for sharing. You are working on it. We are working on it. This is a continuous work that we have to do, and it requires that we unlearn. We unlearn much of what we have been taught. And that story that you just shared about the little white boy who made the connections, right? He was like, "Oh, it's Grandpa God," right? Like, wow, right? I remember hearing my priest, because I was raised in a Black Catholic church for the earliest part of my spiritual formation. And I remember my priest talking about us being made in the image and likeness of God. And then so I went to him, I was like, "So that is God a little black girl?" Right? Because I was a little black girl and we were made in the image and likeness of God. So I was like, God's a little black girl. And he was puzzled with how to respond to that, because really it was rubbing up against his conditioning and his training, right? About what God was. First of all, me talking about God as woman. I think he had less issue with God as black because he was within a tradition of liberation theology and cultural centering and those sorts of things. Um, so that wasn't a leap for him. But God is girl, right? I'm gonna stop right there because we're dancing all on this one right here today. Sally, come on in. Sally, you are muted. We don't hear a thing you saying.
I'm sorry. You all have hit on every piece of what I grew up taught. I too was Catholic. But back in the day where the screen was up on the altar and the backs were turned to us as they were handling the host and yada yada yada. And as a little girl, I was like, what is this? And it was a Latin mass. So I was like, Ecum Spirit 220. That's about all I knew. And Agnus Dei. But my always questioning, like, as a child, like you, Rebeccah, if I'm made in the image and likeness of God, how am I not worthy? How am I not worthy? And I think the hardest thing for me was being a religion teacher in a Catholic school with Black children and why Jesus was hanging up. And so I taught Jesus is a Black man. I got pushed back from one of my colleagues who ran in with the map. And I said, the map is nowhere near Europe. So what is your point? And he walked away. I had a Black mother call and chastise me for telling her son that Jesus wasn't white. And I said, it's interesting that you with a Black son would be worried about the savior of the world being a Black man. She was stunned. So I've had that fight for almost 30 something years now, and I continue to do. It is hard to be in a situation where you're dealing with children who are questioned. That's how they learn. They question. So when they say your faith should be childlike, isn't childlike questioning? Because that's what children do, and that's how they learn, through questions, continuous questions you've never thought to challenge you. Yes, but I think that's why I walked away from religion, because it was no longer, it was so ridiculous to me that let me do the spiritual thing. Let me let me let me reach God and have my relationship with him. And I say him again, the conditioning, that condition again. Um, the way that feels right for me. And it's a personal thing for me that I can share with others, but it's my personal walk with God without the conditions, not trying not to feel unworthy. And when you hit in the last thing you said about Yeah, I wrote this down. God isn't an ability in me. That just blew my mind. That just blew my mind. And now my efforts have to be in line, have to get done, there's a timeline now for me, you know, because God is I'm his image. I'm his likeness. The sunset I see this evening is what God created. The rainbows I see are what God created. The little people that I see as I look around me. So what am I creating? Because of God's ability in me. So thank you. Thank you for clearing some things up for me. I appreciate it. And Cynthia and whoever else just whoever else just had to spoke. Yes, absolutely. Thank you all.
Thank you, Sally. Thank you for sharing your personal experience, right? And where you experience the contradictions and the tensions and the pushback, right? When we start challenging something called God, people's conception of something called God, right? We are in dangerous territories often, because we've been taught that something called God is an objective state of being rather than an interpretation, a cultural interpretation of a set group of people, right? For a particular benefit and purpose, right? That's what we're talking about here, right? And who does it benefit to have a God that we cannot question? Again, if God is overseer and authority, you cannot question the overseer or authority except on pain of punishment and destruction. Hello. Where else were those dynamics played out within our lived experiences? Right? So we get to push here. We get to play. We get to tease out. We get to examine our assumptions and ask, are these assumptions in service to my development? In service to my growth? Like, that's the starting point. In service to my most authentic self-expression. We get to ask these things. Right? And then follow the scent of the truth wherever we find it and wherever it takes us. So it's a like, yeah, we're in it. We're in it. We're in it. Reverend Regina.
Well, some of y'all might know my beliefs already. You know, I lived on the west side of Chicago. So we had a picture in our front room of a black Jesus, because I didn't want my kids confused about who was good to us. Okay. So Brie always had a picture outside her door of the black man. Okay. He looked like her. And then, her father was Muslim and I'm a Christian. So, that's twofold going in. But we always had this notion that he had to be a black man because he was so compassionate, okay? Which is different from a lot of people's beliefs because they always seen God as somebody that would zap them for being bad. And so we didn't have that understanding. We always thought that if we got some good, it came from Black Jesus, okay? And it was tripped out because I was raised in a traditional house too. My mother worked for Loyola University. So we had to take 3 years of Catholicism in school, just to get a degree from them. So my beliefs was always challenged, okay? But I did read the Bible and I did accept that the principles were real, okay? Even if the picture of who's great and who's not is not real, because I came up in the 50s and 60s too with James Brown saying, I'm black and I'm proud. So, I had a whole lot of stuff going on. But I do thank God for this situation right now, though, because now I can just believe that God is, okay? He is my all in all. Everything about him is good, okay? So I don't think of him zapping people, or, if you do something wrong or whatever. I do believe that you have to think about who are you serving and then take that inside. So anybody that knows me know that I have these strange beliefs, as they would say, different from most persons. But I do believe that, that's why I love in spite of what's happening in the world. So I just wanted to put that in.
Thank you, Mama. Thank you for sharing with us a bit about your formative experience growing up and the ways that you've held the complexities of God and religion within your household as a way of helping your children have a different kind of formation, one that did not exclude their identities, but included included them, where they could see themselves in representations of God. Indeed, indeed. Thank you. Wolf, I see your hand up.
Yeah, thank you. The overseer analogy, or in some ways actuality, in terms of some concepts that have been passed down and through conditioning, is sitting with me. Because I was thinking, an overseer never really works for themselves. They're doing the work of someone else. And so with that whole concept and feeling of God as overseer, and I like like Mama was saying, zapping, and you being afraid of doing something bad, and what the overseer will do to you is always doing the work of something or someone else. And when you think of overseers in terms of those who are overseeing and selected to oversee the enslaved people, it's like just that whole concept, like, well, who is the work that type of concept is like pushing for? What is the work? Who's behind it? And so it's just that whole thing, which I have my answers and all that stuff. I'm sure perhaps many others on this call do too. And that's just like, it makes it even more like evident and clear, and actually kind of a gross feeling for me in terms of everything that's been, because I went to shoot, kind of grew up in the church in a way. I went to like Catholic school and then a private Christian school, which then I didn't realize when I was in Catholic school that it was supposed to be a difference until I got to a private Christian school. And then I was like persecuted for going to a Catholic. It was a whole mess growing up. And just everything, that whole overseer piece is just really holding with me. And how untrue that feels for me. Especially, it just feels like it's almost like a facade or a myth of kind of like a watch out or else type of feeling, but really it's like the Wizard of Oz, of who's the wizard behind the curtain that's pushing that, you know what I'm saying? And so anyway, I just really appreciate that that calling out of that overseer piece. And it affirms so much of what I felt since I was a kid, of like having discontent anytime. And this is for me, this is not to knock whatever words anyone else uses on this call, but medieval language from different times, such as lord, such as other things, that where it puts this type of, I don't know, something about the hierarchy, and just takes away the concept and the truth of God within. And I put in the chat that like we are what we create, and it goes back to the piece of like God wanting to be expressed. And I think so too. I think you said earlier, when I was like, I know I was outside at this time on the walk, but like, you said if God is man, then God is also ant, God is also cow, whatever other things. And it's just, we are what we create, and that extends to God as well. And so it's not to oversee, but to be with, and that's it. So.
Oh, you got right on up in there, in that place of tension, that icky place, like that icky God is authority, hierarchy, caste system, can't access it, can't be it, can't touch it, not worthy of it. Always, like, you got right in there. And I just want to say that it takes an extraordinary amount of violence to have us stay in that, because it runs counter to our own intuitive knowing. It takes a lot of violence to get us to stay in that and to be okay. And when I say be okay, I mean just accept it, and to no longer feel the tension that comes with it, to no longer experience the contradictions that are inherent in that setup. Because it is indeed a setup, right? That is working to the benefit of somebody's, right? So I really appreciate your telling your own story, but also having a sit right in that tension, right in that tension. And the use of medieval language, right? The use of language to reinforce our position. And the spiritual hierarchy was used as justification for the social hierarchy. Right? This is divine order. So yeah. I'm feeling that. I'm feeling that. Which is why I wanna tease some of this out even more. Right? I want to tease this out because I said I talked about within transforms God from authority to ability. There's some real stuff there, because a lot of us have been imprinted around God as authority. But there's been much less handling and engagement of God as ability. And that's where, right? That's where I want us to lean in even more and to consider the implications of that for us. If Western religion was particle physics, and y'all have heard me talk some about physics before in this space, but if Western religion was particle physics, then we've been taught to think about God as a particle. In fact, there's a book called The God Particle, right? And not as a wave. We've been taught to think about God as a particle, not as a wave. That is to say, God is a being, right? A being, and not necessarily as God as a wave. And this has benefits and drawbacks. So let's lean into that for a moment. God as a particle or as a being, and let me be even more explicit, even as the most exalted human or divine being, is relatable. That's why we see it keep popping up. That God is relatable. That God is responsive. This is a God that's accessible, is personal, is dependable, and is, loving much of the time. All of the things that human beings often need and desire, right? So God is being, because that is a conception of God. Of course, there's a downside to that, because if the identity politics of God don't align with your particular identity, then you outside of much of that, right? And that God, as the sort of we say in the church, you taught, you were made in the image and likeness of God, and yet there's a revolutionary proposition that says, God was made in the image and likeness of us, our understandings of God. Then God can also be vengeful. God can be jealous. God can be unforgiving. You understand what I'm saying? Like, if you don't have God as a being, it's not just being of these set of qualities or characteristics. You get the whole kit and caboodle. Right? And in many of our spiritually formative experiences, we learned about not just a loving God, but a vengeful God. So human beings have had lots of practice with God as a being in this Western culture, because as you move to Eastern culture, you get a lot more of God as energy. So now I want to talk a little bit about God as a wave, or is a force, wave, force, energy that's energetic, dynamic, and cosmic. And for some, this is great because there's no space or time that God is not. But this God we can run up into some issues with it because it feels impersonal, right? And ever changing, always changing. Like Cynthia, when you said, the lady said, "Don't take away my Jesus." Right? When my Nana was praying to her Jesus, God was a being. She wasn't praying to no wave. Right? Like that was not God. God was her friend. God was her companion. God was her comfort. Like God needed to be a being for her. And I am not here to tell you like what is right for you. I am here to thicken things up. Right? If we moved beyond a dualistic consciousness, we can actually embrace a greater truth that God, that energy can be experienced as particle and wave. Particle and wave. Right? My spiritual teacher, Reverend Dr. Leon Edward Wright, used to say, and my mother said this to me, and I was like, oh, he used to say, "We are human and divine simultaneously and to the same degree." We are human and divine simultaneously and to the same degree. We are human and divine simultaneously and to the same degree. Right? Like when you said, like, oh, God, Lord, like, oh, it's icky, it's hierarchy, it's ever, like, if God is all that is, then there are no hierarchies in God. Like, let's just play this out. If God is whole, then where's the hierarchy? There's no God. There are no hierarchies in God. That is to say that nothing is more God or less God. Hello. And that does not support the dominant social order. And being God isn't being just one way. If God is all, that is, what do we do with that? Right? How does that challenge our sense of morality? Hello. It complicates things. Right? And my teacher was trying to say there's no separation between the human and the divine. There's no separation between the personal and the impersonal. There's no separation between the relational and the energetic. Like at some point, if we drop down into the thickness, we will find that the boundaries and borders that we have constructed, we have constructed. Shit, like we've constructed. And you know what? If we constructed them, guess what we can do? Now, we can unconstruct them, deconstruct them. Deconstruct is probably the right word. But we can create something else.
D.
Yes, D. Thank you. We can create something else. And I'm not saying that that's easy, but I am saying that the challenge in our culture, I think, is that too many of us have only known of God as an authorized being. That's all we got. That's all we were given. And we were beaten and brutalized anytime we decided to explore a different set of truths or possibilities about God. Because if we did that, then we would explore a different set of truths and possibilities about ourselves. That's what's at stake. That's what's at stake. And my aim today is to agitate us into a wider conception and practice of God. Conception and practice of God as an ability for the purpose of our liberation and evolution. God is an ability. We can use the power within ourselves. In fact, we always use the power within ourselves. We always use the power within ourselves. Whether we do that consciously or not is the question. It's not if we do it, it's how we do it. We are generative, creative forces of life. That's what we are. Generative, creative forces of life. Being and expressing, creating, destroying, engaging with the thickness of ourselves in every second of existence. That's what we are. At least that's what I believe we are. And, and I'm clear about my agenda. Like for real. Just like the church and stuff has an agenda, my agenda is liberation and evolution, spiritual liberation and evolution. I want us to grow up in God. Grow up. That's what I want us to be. I'm not aiming for us to be children of God. So I'm just clear about my agenda. Y'all know? I mean, you have your own agenda. But that ain't my aim. Stuck in some infantile relationship of powerlessness and negation?
Come on, Becca, preach. Come on, baby, preach.
Right? But in the fullness and thickness of ourselves as cause. Cause. And effects. We're all of that. We're all of that. All of that. God is an ability that most of us use unconsciously in service to that which does not love us. Oh. And it's not our fault, but it is our choice. Can we try something different? Right? Mary has a song, it's the God in me. What? It's the God in me. What? Right? Like, how might I then use the ability, the generative, creative, connective, responsive, dynamic, ubiquitous ability of being? How might I consciously use the God that I am in service to my own precious life and all being? That's the opportunity before us. And I don't have an answer to your how. I just came to stir shit up. Right? That's what I came to do. Yeah. Right? But the opportunity for us is to each deeply consider how we are being God. So I'm going to pause there. Thank you, Sally. Yeah, stir it up. Stir it up. Stir it up so that we remember. We remember. And we go within. Because the thing about all of these practice systems and religions and stuff is that really what they've managed to do is to push us to the margins. And what within does is it brings us back to center stage. This thing called God has to have a consequence for me. For me. Needs to be in service to me. My development, my evolution, my expression, my creation. Within helps us. And it doesn't do that in a way that excludes everything else. Because here's another point that I love from physics is that if you're looking for the center of the universe is wherever you are looking from. An ever expanding universe, a universe that is expanding in all directions simultaneously, has as its center whatever and wherever the engager is. How about that? And it doesn't decenter anything else. Like that contradiction that we've been taught is a false one. It's either me or you. But how elegant and beautiful is that? That something that is whole has as its center every point within itself simultaneously. Can we even radically conceive of and hold that? It obliterates the practices and patterns of human domination that we have been taught ordered life. I open up the floor for more reflection and wisdom and insight from the group. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm appreciating everything that you're saying. It's given a lot of words to what I've probably held as a belief for a long time. In constructive theology in seminary, you have the space to like really break apart and think about what are the elements that are integral to how you think of God, the world, ourselves. And I realized that like it was all and for me, all and because like any level of constriction just felt too imposing for how I have conceptualized of God. God within the universe and beyond that, as well as God within, right? So I'm just really sitting with this in like deep agreement because yes, Black Jesus was outside my room, and I'm like, but that's Jesus. God is beyond Jesus as well, right? um, I didn't bother going to ask my pastor, was God a little black girl? Because I had already believed that God was a little black girl, right? So what has carried me has been this belief that any limitation has been imposed through the limitations of our own beliefs, but are not a reflection of God itself.
Indeed. Indeed. Right. The limitations are just reflections of our own imagination. Right. Yes, Miss Maybell. Go ahead, Mama.
I want to say hello to everyone there. I love Spirit Rising for many, many reasons you can imagine. And I want to publicly thank my daughter for making this birthday weekend so extraordinary. It has really, really taken me by surprise and put a smile on my face and warmth in my heart. I'm so grateful to be your mother. Thank you for deciding to come this way through me. Couple of things are on my mind. One, God is an overseer. I never thought of I never thought of that. But then it occurred to me that even Santa Claus, right? He's watching to see whether you're naughty or nice. That's an oversight function. And so it's built into a number of places within our culture. Um, uh, where there's something again outside of yourself passing judgment on you and your behavior. Um, and the question of whether God is a little black girl, your mother didn't have a problem explaining that. Now, the priest may have had a problem, but he, you know, I'll leave that alone. I'm grateful that he stood outside of the Catholic Church and established the African American Catholic congregation because he took us a little closer to having us shake off some shackles that had been there many, many years. Didn't go all the way, but much of this happens by degrees. Progress, not perfection, they say, you know. And then the last thing I want to say, because everything that you've said just rings so, so true and is so foundational. I love the description of religion as an institution that pushes us to the margins, but meditation or going within brings us back to center stage. That rings so true and is borne out by my own experience. Next to the last thing I want to say is I have a friend in a recovery program who spent a lot of time in jail. He was saying, he said he spent so much time in jail, he had a chance to read all the sacred literature. You know, he read the Bible, the Quran, the Vedas, the Bhagavad Gita, all of that. I don't know how true that was, but you know, that's what he said. But what he also said was when he read Genesis, it occurred to him that when God created the cosmos, the universe, he said, he ain't had nothing to create it out of but itself. You know? And as simplified as that sounds, it really hits at the truth that everything that exists, that is manifest at all, visible or invisible, snowflake or Rebecca, you know, cloud or grain of sand, had to have emerged from the source. It was not, when you talked about no border, it was not something that you had to go over here to the supply cabinet and get and bring back and create a cosmos out of. It had to have emerged from the source itself. And so there, everything that is manifest and is not manifest had to come from one place. You know, old folks say only one person in the room. You know. So that supports the notion that there is nothing outside of this reality that is God, that it is all God. And the difficulty has been, as you said, that we have been taught to think of God as separate from ourselves, when in fact that would be an impossibility. And the difference between understanding that and not understanding that is the level of awareness. As Dr. Wright said, as you said, we embrace it at the level of our readiness. And he told us, he said, I'm not trying to convince you of anything. He said, you will understand it at the level of your readiness, at the level of your awareness. You'll be able to embrace it. And what you don't understand, put it on the shelf. Because if you keep living and keep evolving and keep stretching, you'll go back to the shelf and you'll pull it down and you'll see the correctness, the truth of it. So again, thank you, Rebeccah, for being my daughter. You know, they tell you sometimes you got to birth your own gurus. Praise God. I'm out.
Oh, thank you, Mama, for being my mama. Right. Thank you so much. This whole weekend is a tribute to you and my gratitude that I know the goodness of God, largely because you are my mother. Right. I have experienced firsthand that goodness. I have incontrovertible evidence of the goodness of God through my relationship with you. I love this framing that you offered, that your friend gave, that, you know, God ain't had nothing to create from but God itself, right? The source is sourcing through itself. And so, and that source has not stopped sourcing, right? It is sourcing through us, in us, as us. Right? It is sourcing through us, in us, as us. The universe is actively expanding through us. Through us, through what we are creating, through what we are taking apart, through what we are imagining, through what we are dreaming, through what we are grieving, through what we are living, through what we are fearing. Right? There's a group called The Wind and the Warrior, this amazing Black women alchemists who have a slogan, and it says, from spirit to practice and beyond. I like to think from spirit to practice and into form. Right? We are, when we talk about God as an ability, right now, what are you doing? You are practicing God. Right now. You are advancing and creating the universe's expansion through your movement test, through your listening, Jaquie, through your head nod, Cynthia, through your hand on your heart, Mama Love. Just as the ant is creating and practicing and expanding the universe through its movement of the grain that it carries on its back, through its sharing of the sustenance. And the tree is creating and expanding the expansion of the universe through the deepening of its roots, through the fluttering of its leaves. And the bird is creating the expansion of the universe and the next form of expression of the universe through the movement of its wings. Like, how does God work? In us, with us, through us, for us, as us, source, as us, always sourcing, always sourcing. Yeah. We have come to the end of our time together. Bye, Mama. Anyone else have anything you want to say by way of our closing before we put a pause on it?
I've just been in a deep state of contemplation this entire time. And definitely since why I was sent here today. And so thank you and thank everyone for holding the space.
Same. Tremendous gratitude and inspiration, and really honored and elevated to be with all of you.
Thank you, Becca. I just don't know what to say. I'm just so overwhelmed, and it has given me much to sit with and meditate on. And I just can't express my gratitude for this community. This is sacred space. And there's a medicine here that is so liberating, so transforming. Just, I don't know where to begin. Thank you, daughter. Thank you. Thank you, Spirit Rising family.
Thank you, Mama.
Thank you, Rebecca. You reminded me of I'm not alone. And God is an ability in you that is powerful. Thinking of it that way, ability in you. And I know how much through my experiences, how we are a generative, creative force of life. And we are that when we are one with the universe and God and connecting with others.
Thank you, sweet tea. And we cannot not be that generative creative force, right? We can't turn it off. It is what we are. We are either engaging in it consciously or unconsciously, but we are what we are. We are what we are. Anyone else? Because it's 2:01 and I have a closing song for us. If there's no one else who wants to lend their voice to the mix.
I'll just say that there's no to overseer, yes to inner seer.
Yeah, we need a t-shirt. uh,
All right, playing around with inner seeker or seer. We'll see what we do with that.
yes, yes, yes. All right, beautiful ones. I'm gonna have Indy Irie and Beautiful Chorus close us out on this day as you take what was shared collectively today, what we managed to create one with another today, and carry it into your week, and into your experience and practice of yourself and of your sourcing, right? Your practice of your sourcing. And you are always sourcing yourself and the wider web of life of which you are deeply entangled and enmeshed, into which you are woven and weaving. You're both woven and weaving. How about that? Hey, let's listen to a little Indie Irie to close us out.
Welcome magic and wonder, brilliance and grace. Welcome joy, satisfaction, pleasure and strain. Welcome essence, beauty, presence, time, spirit, form and space. Welcome excellence in every blessing, sacred and praise. What I seek, I have. What I wanna know, I understand. All I wish I could, I can. Who I wanna be, I am. What I seek, I have. What I wanna know, I understand. All
All right, Spirit Rising family, please come off mute. Show your love for everybody as we depart into the ether.